Good morning, children. How are you? Hope you all are fine. In this video, we'll study NCERT History second lesson, New Kings and Kingdoms. In this lesson, we'll see the political developments in different parts of India between 7th and 12th century. First part, you will learn about the various dynasties which came to power in 7th to 12th century India. Then you will learn about how administration was carried out in these dynasties with special focus on the use of the revenue collected from taxes. Then you will learn about the kinds of conflict these regions faced with each other and how the northern regions underwent a series of invasions. See children, many new dynasties emerged after 7th century. See this map. This map shows the major ruling dynasties in different parts of the subcontinent between the 7th and 12th century. After the death of Harshavardhana in the 7th century, India was divided into various regional kingdoms ruled by different dynasties. The prominent ones amongst them were the Palas in the east. In the map you can see eastern side of India, Palas. The Gurjara Pratiharas in the west and the Rashtrakutas in the Deccan region. And also in the map you can see in the southern region, the Chola kingdom emerged as the most powerful one. It was the longest ruling dynasty and known for its unique administration. So prominent dynasties emerged during this time were Palas in the east, Gurjara Pratiharas in the west and Rashtrakutas in the Deccan region. In the southern part we can see Chola kingdom. It was the longest ruling dynasty and known for its unique administrative system. During the 7th century, the rulers had appointed big landlords as warrior chiefs. These landlords had acquired the land through grants given by the king. These warrior chiefs were known as Samandas. Samandas were big landlords. King appointed big landlords as warrior chiefs. So these landlords had acquired the land through grants given by the king. These warrior chiefs were known as Samandas and were most powerful class of people after the ruler. They brought gifts for the rulers, attended court regularly and provided military support at the ruler's command. Over time, these landlords acquired a lot of wealth and became very powerful. They began adopting titles like Mahasamanda or Mahamandaleshwara. So very often they declared themselves as independent rulers and established their dynasties by overthrowing the kings. Very often these Samandas declared themselves as independent rulers and established their dynasties by overthrowing the kings. One such instance was that of Rashtrakutas in the Deccan. Rashtrakuta dynasty was established by Dandi Durga. He was a Samanta under the Chalukya rulers of Karnataka. He overthrew the Chalukya ruler and established his control over the region that is present day Maharashtra and Karnataka. So Rashtrakuta dynasty was established by Dandi Durga. He was a Samanta under Chalukya rulers of Karnataka. He overthrew Chalukya rulers and established his control over the region that is present day Maharashtra and Karnataka. Dandi Durga was not a Kshatriya. We should remember that none of the kings of these new dynasties were born into the Kshatriya class, unlike in ancient India, where the rulers were all Kshatriyas. He performed ritual sacrifice with the help of the Brahmins and was considered reborn as a Kshatriya. What is the name of that sacrifice? That is called Hiranyagarbha. This ritual is called Hiranyagarbha. What is the meaning of Hiranyagarbha? The golden womb. Rashtrakuta founder Dandi Durga was not a Kshatriya, so he performed a sacrifice called Hiranyagarbha and declared as he was reborn as a Kshatriya. Next part, let us see administration in the kingdoms. The king was the supreme power in the kingdom. He adopted titles like Maharajadiraja, Tribhuvana Chakravartin, etc. What is the meaning of Maharajadiraja? Means great king. Tribhuvana Chakravartin, lord of the three worlds. King was the supreme power in the kingdom. He adopted titles like Maharajadiraja and Tribhuvana Chakravartin, etc. And he ruled from the capital city, controlling the regions around it directly with the help of council of ministers. In each of these states, resources were obtained from the producers. Who were these producers? Peasants, cattle keepers and artisans. In each of these states, resources were obtained. What we told, Palas region, Rashtrakuta, Gurjara, Patiala, all of these states, resources were obtained from the producers, that is peasants, cattle keepers and artisans, who were compelled to surrender part of what they produced. And also traders also had to give a part of their income as tax. The tax was collected as rent for using the land the king owned and for being provided protection from invaders by the king's army. This tax was also used by the king to maintain his own establishment. It also used for the construction of temples and forts, maintaining the army, to protect the kingdom from invasions, to attack neighboring kingdoms for wealth, and to capture trade routes. So this tax, the tax collected was used for construction of temples and forts, maintaining the army, to protect the kingdom from invasions, to attack neighboring kingdoms for wealth, and to capture trade. Now children, let's see Prashastis and land grants. Prashastis contain details that may not be literally true. In 6th standard, you might have read about the Prashastis of the Gupta ruler Samudragupta. These Prashastis were composed by learned Brahmanas. King often rewarded Brahmanas by grants of land. These were recorded on copper plates, which were given to those who received the land. Prashastis were written mainly for praising kings. But we can see here, unlike the writers of Prashastis, we can see an author named Kalhana. Kalhana wrote a book called Rajatarangini. So here Kalhana in 12th century, his Rajatarangini was a long Sanskrit poem containing the history of kings who ruled over Kashmir. In this book, he was often critical about the rulers and their policies. Unlike the Prashastis were written for praising the king, but Kalhana's Rajatarangini, it was a long poem written in 12th century about the rulers of Kashmir. In this book, he was often critical about the rulers and their policies. Now children, let's move to the topic warfare for wealth. You may have noticed different dynasties in the first map, right? Each of these ruling dynasties was based in a specific region. At the same time, they tried to control other areas. Did you see here? Kanauj. Kanauj, the capital city of Harshavardhana, had gained importance in the 7th century. Located on the banks of river Ganga, this region was very fertile and served as an important trade link for the transport of goods to the ports. Due to its strategic location, the Palas, Gurjara Pratiharas and Rashtrakutas were in constant conflict with each other to capture Kanauj. Because there were 3 parties in this long-drawn conflict, historians often describe it as tripartite struggle. Tripartite struggle. Who were the 3 dynasties involved in the tripartite struggle? Palas, Gurjara Pratiharas and Rashtrakutas. There were 3 parties. They were in constant conflict for Kanauj. That is why this conflict historians described as tripartite struggle. However, none of these kingdoms could control Kanauj for long due to internal revolts, bringing an end to the tripartite struggle. Now let's see the invasions from the west. Around the year 1000, there were a series of invasions by Mahmud of Ghazni. Mahmud, the ruler of Ghazni in present-day Afghanistan. He ruled from 997 AD to 1030 AD and extended control over parts of Central Asia, Iran and the northwestern part of the subcontinent. He invaded India 17 times. Mahmud of Ghazni invaded India 17 times. His targets were wealthy temples including that of Somanath. He used the wealth to modify the city of Ghazni into a city with palaces, tombs, universities and mosques. Sultan Mahmud of Ghazni entrusted a scholar named Al-Biruni. For what he entrusted the scholar? To write an account of this subcontinent, India. This Arabic work, Al-Biruni's Arabic book's name is Kitabul Hind. It remains an important source for historians. Sultan Mahmud of Ghazni entrusted a scholar called Al-Biruni. He wrote a book about India that is called Kitabul Hind. It is an important source for historians. He consulted Sanskrit scholars to prepare this account. Next ruler from the west we can see Muhammad of Ghor. Muhammad of Ghor, who came to power and was controlling Ghazni on behalf of his brother, decided to invade India in 1191. However, he was stopped by the Rajput ruler Prithviraj Chauhan in the famous First Battle of Tarai. First Battle of Tarai was in 1191. In this battle, Prithviraj Chauhan defeated Muhammad Ghor. So Muhammad was not discouraged by this defeat. In 1192, he attacked with greater force and defeated Prithviraj Chauhan in the second battle of Tarai. First battle of Tarai was in 1191. Prithviraj Chauhan defeated Muhammad Ghor. But next year itself, again he came back and attacked Prithviraj Chauhan in the second battle of Tarai, that was in 1192. In second battle of Tarai in 1192, Muhammad of Ghor defeated Prithviraj Chauhan. In next video, we'll discuss in detail about the history of Cholas. Till then, bye children.